Hello, welcome to another Line War beta match. Today we have Swkoll. I think that's how you pronounce that name. Let me know if I did it wrong. They are starting right next to each other, and Swkoll is versus Orbnet. For those of you that know, or don't know, Orbnet was the winner of the tournament that recently was held. The 22 Q2 tournament, which eventually I should have a full video of every single one of the matches. It's about 10 hours long, and it's taken me about 2 days to get to 10% uploaded. So early on we have Orbnet moving most of his units into the front line here, where Swkoll has most of this territory, so he's going to have to push up through this area. And Orbnet has managed to build 3 barracks straight away, 3 factories, no, 1 factory, and he's going for 2 more barracks. Which is pretty much the same thing what Swkoll's doing. So he's got 5 barracks and 1 factory set up. He's going for the barracks to be produced faster, which is probably not a bad idea with the amount of infantry that's in this area. And luckily, because the infantry move faster in the beta test, they are going to be able to manage to get into the front line faster than they would have been before. It looks like he has kept 4 behind to get the territory below, which when it comes to a map like this, where they're moving through this thin line, 4 is probably all you need. Getting as many units onto the front line here to take over this area is probably not a bad idea either, whereas Orbnet is dedicating more units to expanding. However, this choke point is holding him off, so he can use less units potentially. He is going to call these units back and bring these units down, and I don't know if Swkoll is going to see that. He should do, but whether he does is a different thing. I think he might just be trying to go for the structures. He's okay with these guys getting in, which he's not actually going to commit to. Orbnet has seeming to retreat these guys. Yeah, they are moving back. I think it's because he can see how many units are coming in, and Orbnet is not prepared for that many units, potentially. Orbnet has gone for an anti-air unit, just in case the enemy goes anti-air, goes into air. But there is a lot of infantry that have been built again right early on in this game. It seems like infantry might be used a lot more often in these games, potentially to claim territories in just early game battles. Orbnet is pushing through while Swkoll is pushing through. And the line commands are quite different, so it'll be interesting how this goes, because I think Swkoll had the advantage at first, but Orbnet allowed himself to reproduce some more units to try and fill up this gap here that was coming in. But unfortunately, I think Swkoll lost most of his front line here now. He does have some artillery now instead of going into Sam straight away, which may help in the future, but Orbnet is a very skilled player, so we'll have to see. I don't know too much about Swkoll. Don't recognise the name. But Orbnet has set up a ton of lines just in this one little section here. Might be overdoing it with the lines there, but maybe there's an organisation, method to the madness. I don't know. Orbnet is going to continue pushing through while it looks like Swkoll is retreating in that area. Maybe not. Maybe it was just reinforcements coming in and I misinterpreted that. But they are having a proper little fight there. His units are still expanding down in the south there. But unfortunately, Swkoll is struggling with his economy. He's only got 270 production, or income, but 280 expenses. Whereas Orbnet is managing to keep his income up, and that's because he's got more territory to claim. He sent more units off to claim that territory as well. I just think, unfortunately, Swkoll got caught off in a bad position at the start of the game, and is struggling to maintain this front line, but it looks like Orbnet is losing a lot of units at this point. But again has retreated to try and build up his numbers and hope that these units are enough to take these guys out. Got to remember, even though the Orbnet was the winner of the 22 Q2 tournaments, the game has changed in this match, because this is the beta test, so Orbnet might not be as familiar as we may think he is. There you go, he sent some units up this way to help with expanding, or just to claim these territories. And now he's called them back in. He knows he needs them on the front line. This force is able to overwhelm him if Orbnet didn't do anything about it. And Orbnet is trying to take over all the territory and get these units back up here later on when they're needed. And he does have the SAM units there, which will help kill the infantry. And the artillery there as well. He has gone into more barracks. I think Orbnet will be able to push back eventually, just purely because he's got extra eco. So right now he's got 5 barracks and 2 factories. Swkoll has 5 barracks and 1 factory. So he is a bit behind on production now as well. And his economy is pretty much balanced. And again, Orbnet has managed... It's been a bit of a to and fro in this one little section of the map. Orbnet suddenly runs out of units and then he has to pull them back to build up his units again, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. But it seems like infantry are filling up most of these plays. Swkoll has the advantage when it comes to artillery. Orbnet has been using 2, he's got 3 now, but he's only been using 2. Whereas Swkoll has his artillery right on the mountains, his infantry on the front line, allowing the artillery to fire as much as possible. And they are doing a lot of damage, but it's just not going to be enough to hold Orbnet back right now. Or maybe it will. I mean, they probably are going to lose this front line eventually. As I said, it's been back and forth. I don't expect that to change for a while. But Orbnet is growing in his economy. And Swkoll is not. He's pretty much going to reach his potential soon. And he's already struggling with the economy. He's not going to be able to increase it much more unless he takes this from Orbnet. Whereas Orbnet has pretty much reached it all here, but has so much more to grab. And he's realizing now he's got a bit of a gap. He can send some units off to capture some territory, holding the front line with these infantry and now with his artillery on the back line. Unfortunately for Swkoll, there isn't too much he can do apart from keep on producing these units and put them in the front line. Orbnet does have a few options, which he has taken the best advantage that he can of. And that is probably why Swkoll is able to push back in a minute. And he just... when he takes off those reinforcements going off of the territory, that's when Swkoll gets pushed back himself. So I pretty much think that Orbnet has this, but I think it's more to do with positioning and Orbnet's decisions on when to expand and when not to. But ultimately, I think this area is just going to be the death of Swkoll. Unfortunately for him. Orbnet's bringing back his units down here. He's got them on flag command still, so he doesn't need them in a rush. He's just trying to claim some extra territories. These units down here haven't been forgotten. They're nearly done. These units might get forgotten about, but these guys are still going to carry on. Orbnet's just taken off all of his lines to clear it. He must have double-clicked and delete them. And he's setting up some new lines to move in and come around. The Swkoll, where Swkoll is still producing these guys and sending them through. I mean, they're in a big blob, so they're just going to flood in through this area pretty fast. But Orbnet is building a large amount of artillery now compared to Swkoll, and I think he's going to be able to push these artillery out soon and be able to push back when these guys start joining the battlefield. Well, to be fair, that's all he's got. He's got the others back in the expanding mode. So these will help support the match, but he does have another factory being built right now, which is the advantage Orbnet has because of how much territory he has to claim. There we go, that one's taken over the territory. He can delete these lines, send them back up there. I don't know if he will anytime soon. But there we go, it looks like Swkoll was able to defeat the army that was here. Now Orbnet is going to have to present something to defend with. But they're going to be produced pretty fast, so they are going to be able to set up a defensive line fairly quickly. Orbnet realizing his loss as soon as possible saving as many units as he can. Now Swkoll is in a position where he can either build up his army himself, push through in a certain area. It's his decision now. But he has pretty much maxed out his eco. Let's have a look at that just before. We got 300 a minute from Swkoll, and Orbnet has 460. And in this game, that big difference, even though it's not as big as we've seen before, it is going to make a huge difference. It's about 50% extra eco than the opponent. There we go, he's got his infantry going to move back into the battlefield here. It looks like he's going to leave his artillery in defense here. He's just using the infantry to push forward, not the artillery. I think he's deciding against it. He thinks Swkoll's going to come in instead. I think he's going to let Swkoll do that. But instead, Swkoll's gone in for a defense of his own. And he's sending some infantry around to the side. Swkoll, realizing that he's at his maximum, he is sending his units around to the side to try and capture behind Orbnet, hoping that Orbnet hasn't taken any of the territories over there, which it looks like he is doing so just now, really. He hasn't forgotten about these guys. He did bring them back up, and they're going to follow this path around after they take over this territory. And Orbnet is defending this area, and he's got his infantry over here to block any infantry that try and cut through. But Orbnet will have to respond. These infantry are a bit large in numbers, and they will push through this area if Orbnet does nothing. The artillery are managing to fire in. They're in range of these artillery units. Their infantry are going to be supported as they push through here with those artillery, but Orbnet is deciding to put his infantry through instead. So Swkoll is still trying to have his infantry go around here, which is actually not a bad idea. These guys will come around and curve around these units, but it's just probably going to be not enough. Too little too late, as I say. But anything coming into this area, this is basically no man's land. It's just going to be torn up by the artillery on either side. And the infantry up here is still a bit undecided, I think. Maybe Swkoll has a bit of advantage here. He's got more numbers, he's got more coming in, but Orbnet does have his units all there at once already. And the infantry here are getting torn up as soon as they walk into this area. They are not going to be as effective, but they are distracting while the artillery here move into position. Orbnet is moving his artillery in, ignoring the defensive line that's set up there. Instead of deleting the line, he's kept the defense there. He's just turned off the units, so the artillery can move away with the fortifications still set up. And it looks like Orbnet is taking control over this section of the map now. He's got a lot of artillery. These ones are supporting over here, allowing these infantry a better advantage to win that battle. And the infantry here are distracting the artillery here, allowing these artillery to take less losses, controlling this area. Orbnet is still managing to expand up in the north. He stopped Swkoll from escaping. I don't know what Swkoll's next plan is, but it doesn't look like he's got much to do. There wasn't really much point in trying to take over this island. It would have been helpful, but not much. He would have been better off trying to build, potentially, a navy yard and try and send some units around up here, if you know what I mean. Instead of trying to push around like this. That could have been a potential option. But it looks like Swkoll is about to be defeated. He hasn't got enough coming in. He's got his production, which is quite high. It's just going to slow down Orbnet a lot. But as we can see, there isn't much time left of the battle. So I assume Swkoll is going to end up resigning soon. Maybe Orbnet does. Maybe Swkoll pulls something out of the bag, but Orbnet has been successful so far, I think. I think he's taken out everything now. He's got a lot of artillery here. And he's got his messy lines that are dominating the battlefield right now. Orange is my favourite colour, so I don't mind too much. He's deleted all his lines. As soon as I say that, he's just trying to get against me, I guess. I don't know. He set up new lines, more cleaner lines. Nice. And I think that's just one in the battle, setting up some cleaner lines. As Swkoll is about to leave this match, but he did manage to hold his own against Orbnet, the current champion of the game, essentially. So, that was a very good battle from both players. There are 2 videos on screen right now. Feel free to check them out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.